Good evening, welcome to Today interview time. Today I have Miss Eunice Smith in our studio. She's a program specialist of social and human sciences at UNESCO's office in Beijing. Good evening, Maya.
Good evening.
Thank you for receiving our invitation.
Thank you for having me, it's my pleasure.
So you have visited in Mongolia several times before, but what's the purpose of this visit this time?
Well, I have been coming to Mongolia since 2011 when I moved to cluster office, which is based in Beijing and which covers Mongolia. So I've been coming here for the past 7 years.
7 years, yes.
7 years. So I've had about 15 or more visits to Mongolia.
15. You're very familiar with Mongolia.
I wouldn't say that, but I've been here about at least 15 times.
Wow.
Basically to implement, a lot of it is about social and human science programs implemented in Mongolia. This particular trip, we're here for the ethics teachers training course. This is a program which is run under the our overall project on the ethics of science and technology. It is a course which is intended for university teachers primarily in the life sciences, environmental sciences, and social sciences. And also it targets persons in certain types of jobs which are involved in bioethics or biotechnology or working on the ethics of science and technology. So, for example, decision makers in ministries of health and ministries of environment, where any place where the advances in science and technology can have an impact on human life, as it were.
Well, since the social and human sciences is a very big umbrella, can you cut them down and talk about the structure a bit more?
So in UNESCO, social and human sciences is just one of 5 programmatic areas in which we work.
Right.
Most people know UNESCO for our work in culture with World Heritage
Yes.
Sites. Yeah?
That I know.
You're right. And a lot of people know UNESCO for education. Because UNESCO has been very strong in education, promotion of education, development of teacher training, and curriculum development, and so on around the world. But we also work in the area of natural sciences. And for example, you have here in Mongolia, you have, I think, 6 biosphere reserves. And biosphere reserves actually fall under the area of natural sciences. And we work in communication and information more or less to, again, preserve the principles of freedom of expression, free press, free media, and so on. And social and human sciences is the 5th area. So it's education, education, sciences, which is divided into natural sciences and social and human sciences, culture, and then communication and information. Those are the 5 areas of UNESCO, and I work in social and human sciences. But as you pointed out, the area is a rather big area.
Yes.
The focus of the work of the sector tends to be on promoting policy development, which is inclusive in the social and human science area. So we work with member states or countries to promote policies which are inclusive policies for sustainable development. We also work particularly in the area of social inclusion, so to ensure that the rights of the most vulnerable are respected. We work on bioethics, as we mentioned, and the ethics of science and technology in general. A big portion of our work is with youth and sport. And so those are the main areas. And intercultural dialogue. We work to intercultural dialogue and to promote mutual understanding across people. Because you have to remember, the goal of what is the constitution of UNESCO. The preamble says that the function of the role of UNESCO is to build peace in the minds of men and women, and we're doing that through education, science, culture, and so on.
Well, since you mentioned Mongolia, and you have been in contact with Mongolia for last 7 years, what are the projects you have worked on and in the sector
in
social and
studies,
human sciences sector.
Yeah. So we started off, maybe I can sort of do it chronologically because it's easier for me to recall after 7 years. I'm starting to get old.
Okay.
So we started off in youth, working a lot with young people, because UNESCO, just a little after I arrived here, a couple of things happened. UNESCO adopted a global strategy for working with youth. And that strategy goes on till 2021. And that's one thing which happened at UNESCO level. At the national level, when coming here, I learned from the ministry, what is now the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Youth was part of that ministry at the time. What their plans were to develop a national youth policy. And so, because it also aligned, the objective of the national government was in line with UNESCO's objective. So then we contributed to the development of the national youth policy, but using what is our modalities, which is our priority is that any national youth strategy or policy that is developed must be done with the participation of young people.
Yes.
Policy. So after that, then we actually, once the policy was drafted, we provided UNESCO, both our office in Beijing and UNESCO headquarters provided support, provided feedback, sorry, on the draft policy. Yeah. And in Mongolia, one of the big things that we've done, and perhaps you've heard about it, is the Model UNESCO debates.
Oh, yes, I heard about it.
All right, so this is something which we support.
Yes.
And we've been doing that since, I think, 2014. This is the fourth year. This is the fourth year.
Yes,
yeah. So this is the fourth year. It's going to be held, and actually, while I was here this week, I had a meeting with some of the UN Youth Advisory Panel. So that's in terms of youth, but we also do a lot of other things, working with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection to promote the rights of persons with disabilities. We had the law which was passed in 2016, and so we supported awareness raising among duty bearers about the law, so that when duty holders, when persons who are disabled or persons from disabled people's organizations actually go for services that those who are dispensing the services, the duty bearers, they actually are able to provide those services in line with the Mongolian law. Right now, this year we're going to be supporting work with the ministry again, but this time focusing primarily on the media. Because the media has an important role to play in holding government and others responsible for implementing laws which have been passed. And so it's important that the media is completely up to date, completely understand what's in the law and how it's supposed to be implemented, so that that people's and so help to ensure and protect the rights of citizens. What else? So I told you about bioethics. Yes. So these are some of the things that we've been doing over the years.
Well, my next question is, all of these projects being implemented, from the scientific perspective, how do you measure the outcomes? Let's say you do training, and how do you know that kid who participated in the training really got some advantage? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
from the scientific, from your sector, from your field's perspective, how do you measure the outcomes?
Well, I think, for example, in youth, we've already seen some of the results, because the idea was simply to get young people involved, their voices into the policy-making process, and that was done. The recommendations which came out from the consultations were actually used by the drafters of the national policy. So, I mean, there was a tick here. In terms of getting young people themselves more engaged, we already have it. We have that with the clubs and the activities that the clubs have been implementing in Mongolia. In the area, for example, of bioethics and the ethics teachers training course, it's perhaps not as easy, maybe it's not as obvious, but what we do is a large part of the training is to actually so we have a first part of the training where we actually transmit the skills. It's mostly about, it's not so much about training in bioethics because, or because we assume that the people who are coming, they already know what bioethics is and what the laws of the country are, and implementing them. What we try to do is to then give them improved skills for making decisions with respect to ethical principles. And so that's the first part of the training. But the second part of the training, we have simulated exercises. So every participant then gets the chance to get up and create a case, a scenario in which, and then walk through how they will do it. Of course, there is an evaluation, a formal evaluation after, and then 6 months down the line, there is another evaluation to find out how people are progressing.
So you evaluate afterwards?
Yes, we do. We have an immediate evaluation, and then there is a 6-month evaluation. And the other thing that we do also with respect to bioethics is that we create a network. So once you've participated in the program, you're included in a regional network for for Northeast Asia, and we continually provide information and updates, and we assume and we hope that people are responding. And for those who are like really very good, and so in terms of their capacity to in the simulation exercises, or who have expressed an interest. Later on, many of them have become trained as facilitators, and they get the opportunity to go to other countries and work with much more experienced bioethicists and philosophers, and so in terms of developing the program. And of course, even within your own country.
Yeah, from what you said, it's never-ending project.
It's measuring social change, and that is
it's never ending.
That is a big.
You don't
that's
put
a big,
like point.
Yes.
Okay, we are done this.
No, it's never done.
It's never done.
No, it's a continuous process. Yes, absolutely.
So my last question. Unfortunately, we have limited time, and my last question is: why do you love social and human sciences? It's a personal question. From your perspective, why did you choose this field? Very big umbrella, and what do you love about it?
I don't know if I chose the field or the field chose me. But what I can say is that once I got involved working on social policy issues, I really felt, one, there was a need. Two, we can actually make a difference in people's lives. And I think that is really, really important. And it's different depending on where you work. So I give you an example. Before coming to this part of the world, I was based in Africa. I worked in Africa, in South Sudan for 3 years. And as you know, South Sudan is a post-conflict situation, very difficult situation there. And what I really liked about working there, even though it was really hard and we worked 7 days a week because of the amount of work there was to do, you were inspired to work because at the end of the day, you can see the benefits. You can see how your actions had changed something. You can see, for example, how what you have done by providing working hard to facilitate capacity building for a group of teacher trainers, that they are now better able to actually train teachers who are going to go out to the primary schools, to the secondary schools, and then be able to better help work towards reducing the levels of illiteracy in the country. They're now better skilled.
So looking at that result.
It's not something which is on paper. You can actually go into the classroom and see the difference.
See the difference, feel it.
That is rewarding. And this is for example, so you're working, at an institutional level, which is where UNESCO tends to work a lot in terms of institutional capacity building. So you're building the capacities of institutions, but then you see the process, how it, because the capacity of the institution is now better, that people eventually are able to have
how that institution reaches the people,
is better able to reach people and provide better for people. So from that standpoint, I think it's been really interesting, and we work on a lot of interesting topics in social and human sciences. For example, if you look at the area of social inclusion and promoting the rights of protecting the rights of the vulnerable groups, people with disabilities, the elderly, which is a new project actually that we've just launched, where we're looking at the gendered impact of aging, because women and men do not necessarily age the same way or have the same experiences as they grow older, for a number of reasons. Women tend to not have worked as long as men have because they have taken time off, on maternity leave, or maybe they have, stayed at home to raise the children, or maybe they started late, or maybe they ended their work life late. So they had not contributed as much as men have to pension systems. And what that means is that when they retire, then they have less pension to live on. But at the same time, women are also living longer than men, statistically. So you have less money and you're living longer. And so there are lots of issues, but that's just one issue. There are health issues, there are disability issues as well. People get glaucoma, they get increased heart disease. They have all sorts of things of things happen to us as we get older. That's one of the projects. The project on aging is one that we're looking at, and where Mongolia is also included. So I like working in these areas because it really gives, you can see what you're doing, and you see how you're contributing to humanity.
Well, that's very nice.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing to the humanity. And thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have limited time, only 20 minutes. We could talk on, and we have so many topics, but and thanks very much for sharing all this information and what you have done in Mongolia for the last, 7 years?
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wish you good health and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for today. Thanks for being with us. We will see you next Tuesday with our news time. Have a good one. Goodbye.